She was a statue for 1,000 years. Until a human spoke her name, she blinked.
Before we start, kindly subscribe to my channel and tell me, where in the universe are you watching from? The dusty ruins of Exalvana stretched beneath the twin suns, a silent graveyard of a once great civilization. For 1,000 years, the colossal statue of Tivera had stood untouched at the center of the Grand Plaza. She was carved from obsidian stone, frozen in time, her sharp features fierce, her battle armor detailed with golden etchings. The people of the galaxy whispered legends about her, but no one dared to speak the name carved at the statue's base. Until today. Dorian Vance, a human explorer with a knack for getting into trouble, dusted off the inscription with his gloved hand. His dark brown hair was tousled from the wind, and his deep green eyes studied the alien script curiously. He had a habit of speaking his thoughts aloud, and this time was no different. Tivera, he read, testing the word on his tongue. A low, rumbling sound shook the air. Dorian barely had time to react before the statue cracked from within. Glowing blue lines spread across the stone, and with a deafening boom, the surface shattered. A tall, armored woman stepped forward. She was not a statue anymore. Her golden eyes locked onto him like a predator spotting prey. Her deep crimson hair, once bound in a warrior's crown, fell over her shoulders in waves. The heavy black and gold armor fit her like a second skin, its ancient design unlike anything seen in the galaxy today. Dorian took a slow step back. Oh, that's probably bad. Tivera's gaze flickered to the sky, then to the ruins around them. Confusion flashed across her face, but when she turned to Dorian, it was replaced with pure fury. "Who dares awaken me?" she demanded, her voice rich and commanding. Dorian raised both hands. "Whoa, easy there. I was just reading the name on thee." Her hand shot forward, grabbing him by the front of his jacket. Before he could protest, she yanked him up with one arm like he weighed nothing. "You spoke my name," she growled. "You have bound yourself to me." Dorian blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" The ground trembled again, and suddenly, hundreds of figures appeared from the surrounding ruins. They were warriors, their gleaming silver armor marked with ancient symbols. Some looked in awe at Tivera. Others stared at Dorian like he had just insulted their ancestors. One of the largest warriors, a hulking alien with tusks and a deep scar across his forehead, stepped forward. His voice was low and heavy with reverence. "The champion has awakened, and the human has spoken her name." The crowd murmured. Some bowed. Others drew their weapons. Dorian forced a smile. "So, I don't suppose this is a good thing." Tivera didn't answer. Instead, she threw him to the ground like an afterthought. "You belong to me now," she said, "and if you are unworthy, you will die." Dorian groaned, rubbing his back. "Yeah, that's what I was afraid of." Dorian barely had time to catch his breath before a dozen warriors surrounded him. Their gleaming silver armor reflected the golden sunlight, and their eyes burned with intensity. Some held weapons, sleek, curved blades, and spears that hummed with energy, while others simply clenched their fists, ready to fight. Tivera stood tall in front of them, her golden eyes locked onto Dorian like a judge weighing his fate. She crossed her arms over her chest, her black and gold armor gleaming with the dust of centuries. "You have spoken my name," she said again, her voice strong and unwavering. "By the laws of Exalvana, you are bound to me, but if you are weak, you are unworthy of this bond." Dorian exhaled slowly. "Okay, let's slow down for a second. First of all, I didn't mean to do anything. Second, Tivera drew her sword. It was a massive weapon, its obsidian blade crackling with blue energy. She pointed it at him. "You will prove yourself in combat, or you will be executed where you stand." Dorian's heart sank. He turned slightly, looking for an escape route, but the circle of warriors tightened. There was no way out. One of the warriors, a tall, scarred man with piercing blue eyes, stepped forward. "Shall I cut him down, champion?" Tivera tilted her head. "No, let him fight." Dorian groaned. "This is ridiculous. I'm an explorer, not a gladiator." A second warrior, a muscular alien with gray skin and twin horns, tossed a short blade at Dorian's feet. "Then you die quickly." The crowd cheered in anticipation. Dorian hesitated, then slowly bent down and picked up the weapon. It was heavier than he expected, and the grip felt unfamiliar in his hands. He had trained in basic self-defense back on Earth, but he was no expert. His opponent stepped forward, a towering warrior with crimson tattoos swirling across his bald head. His eyes gleamed with excitement. He twirled his curved blade with ease, then lunged without warning. Dorian barely dodged in time. The warrior's blade slashed through the air where Dorian's head had been a second ago. Dorian stumbled back, gripping his own weapon tighter. Okay, he muttered. Let's think. How would a human survive this? The warrior charged again. This time, Dorian reacted on instinct. Instead of blocking, he ducked low at the last second. The alien's momentum carried him forward, straight into a pile of loose rubble. The crowd gasped. Dorian blinked. That actually worked. The warrior snarled and spun, bringing his blade down in a powerful arc. Dorian barely got his sword up in time. The impact sent a shock up his arms, but he didn't let go. Tivera watched with narrowed eyes. Dorian knew he couldn't overpower this guy. He had to outthink him. He let the warrior swing again, stepping back each time. The alien grew more aggressive, putting all his strength into his attacks. Then, Dorian dodged to the side at the last second. The warrior's swing went wide, and his own momentum threw him off balance. Dorian took the chance. He grabbed a handful of sand from the ground and threw it straight into the alien's eyes. The warrior roared in frustration. The crowd fell silent. Tivera raised an eyebrow. Dorian exhaled and lifted his sword. You want to keep going, or are we done? The warrior growled, rubbing at his stinging eyes. He glared at Dorian, then dropped his weapon. Tivera smirked. Clever. She stepped forward, lifting Dorian's wrist into the air. The human has survived. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Dorian, still catching his breath, muttered, I have a really bad feeling about what comes next. The cheering still echoed in Dorian's ears as Tivera turned to face him. Her golden eyes studied him, and for the first time, there was something new in them, approval. Dorian, still panting from the fight, wiped sweat from his brow. Okay, I'd won. Can I go now? The warriors laughed. One of them clapped him on the back so hard, he nearly fell forward. Tivera's smirk didn't fade. You misunderstand, human. This was not a test for survival. This was a test of worthiness. Dorian blinked. Worthiness? For what? The warriors pounded their fists against their chests in unison. A deep, rhythmic chant rose among them. Tivera's voice was steady as she spoke. For me. Silence. Dorian's stomach dropped. For you? He repeated, hoping he had misheard. Tivera nodded. By defeating a warrior of my people in battle, you have proven yourself strong, and by speaking my name, you have claimed my bond. You are now my mate. Dorian felt his brain short-circuit. Wait. I didn't mean to claim anything. I was just reading a dusty plaque. I didn't sign up for this. Tivera raised an eyebrow. Do you reject me? Dorian opened his mouth, then paused. A dozen giant, armored warriors were staring at him. They gripped their weapons tightly, waiting for his answer. He could almost feel the unspoken threat in the air. He gulped. If he said yes, would they kill him? His eyes darted to Tivera. She stood tall, her golden skin glowing under the twin suns, her dark hair flowing like a warrior queen's. Everything about her screamed power, confidence, and danger. Dorian ran a hand through his messy brown hair. I feel like we should at least go on a date first. The warriors laughed again, some of them shaking their heads at his words. Tivera's lips curved slightly, a human custom. Strange, but amusing. Dorian took a deep breath. Look, I don't mean any offense, but where I come from, marriage is a big deal. People date, they talk, they get to know each other before. Tivera turned away. The rites have been completed. The bond is sealed. Dorian's eyes widened. What do you mean sealed? An elderly warrior, his face marked with deep scars, stepped forward. You do not understand our ways, human. The moment you spoke her name, you awakened her, and now you belong to her. Dorian groaned. Oh, fantastic. I've accidentally married a 1,000-year-old warrior princess. Tivera glanced over her shoulder, amusement flickering in her gaze. And now, my mate, you must fulfill your first duty. Dorian hesitated. Which is? Tivera gestured toward the towering citadel behind them. We are summoned to the High Council. Our union must be recognized. Dorian exhaled through his nose. Yeah, that sounds totally painless. Inside the grand hall of the High Council, the room was massive. Tall marble columns stretched toward the ceiling, glowing with streaks of blue energy. 100 alien figures stood in a semicircle, their elaborate robes shimmering under the light. At the center of them all sat the Grand Chancellor, an ancient alien with piercing violet eyes. Tivera knelt before them, her posture rigid and disciplined. Dorian awkwardly followed suit, unsure if humans were even supposed to kneel in a place like this. The Grand Chancellor studied Dorian with a slow, calculated gaze. So, this is the human who has claimed the Talvanan champion. Dorian forced a nervous smile. Hi. Murmurs rippled through the council. Some of the robed figures glared, others looked amused. The Grand Chancellor's fingers tapped against the armrest of his throne. A strange choice. Tell me, human, do you understand the consequences of your actions? Dorian hesitated. I have a feeling I don't. Tivera's voice was steady. Our people have waited 1,000 years for my return. Now that I have a mate, our bond is a symbol of power. It will decide the future of our alliance with your world. Dorian's heart skipped a beat. I'm sorry. What now? The Grand Chancellor leaned forward. Your union will determine whether our people go to war or make peace. Dorian's stomach twisted. He had just wanted to study alien ruins. Now, somehow, he was married to a warrior princess and was holding the fate of 2 civilizations in his hands. Oh, he muttered. That's quite a lot of pressure. Tivera smirked. You will manage, or you will perish. Dorian swallowed hard. This was not how he expected his day to go. Dorian's mind raced. He had come to this planet as an explorer, hoping to study ancient ruins, not to accidentally marry a 1,000-year-old warrior princess and become the key to an intergalactic peace treaty. And yet, here he was. Standing before the Grand Chancellor and the High Council, Dorian felt every pair of alien eyes locked onto him. Some were amused, others skeptical, but a few looked downright hostile. Tivera, on the other hand, was as calm as ever. She knelt with perfect posture, her expression unreadable. The Grand Chancellor's piercing violet gaze studied Dorian. Do you, human, understand the weight of this union? Dorian forced a nervous laugh. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I definitely didn't think I'd be deciding the fate of 2 civilizations today. But hey, who doesn't love a surprise? A few of the council members whispered to each other. Some smirked at his sarcasm. Others looked unimpressed. The Grand Chancellor's fingers drummed against his throne. Words are easy, human, but words are not enough. You must prove your worth. Dorian's stomach dropped. What do you mean by prove? Tivera finally spoke, her voice smooth but firm. It is tradition. When an outsider claims a Salvanan mate, they must face the trial of fire. Dorian's heart pounded. I don't like the sound of that. The Grand Chancellor nodded. You are wise to fear it. Only those strong enough, clever enough, and worthy enough will survive. Dorian groaned. Why does every alien civilization love dangerous rituals? Tivera glanced at him. If you wish to refuse, will that cancel the marriage? He asked, hopeful. The Grand Chancellor's lips curled. No, it will simply mean your immediate execution. Dorian froze. Oh, cool. Great options. Love it. Tivera's golden eyes held his. Do not worry, human. I will ensure your remains are honored properly. Dorian sighed. Wow, that's very comforting, thanks. The trial begins. The trial of fire was held in an arena deep beneath the citadel. It wasn't the kind of place Dorian wanted to be. The walls were carved from black stone, glowing with veins of molten energy. Jagged pillars surrounded the battlefield, and the ceiling was so high it disappeared into shadows. Rows of armored warriors filled the spectator seats, waiting to see if the human would survive. Dorian rolled his shoulders, trying not to panic. Tigvera stood beside him, her arms crossed. The trial is simple. You must face the Flameborn Guardian. If you survive, you are deemed worthy. Dorian gave her a dry look. You know where I come from. We usually just exchange rings and say I do. Tigvera smirked. Where I come from, weakness leads to death. Dorian was about to reply when the ground trembled. A deep, inhuman growl echoed through the arena. Dorian turned and felt his soul leave his body. A massive creature emerged from the darkness. It was twice the size of an elephant, with obsidian black scales and 4 blazing eyes. Lava dripped from its mouth, and its claws looked sharp enough to slice through steel. Dorian let out a slow breath. Okay, so, just to be clear, I'm supposed to fight that? Tigvera nodded. Yes. Dorian's hands clenched into fists. Right, of course, because why not? The Flameborn Guardian roared, its molten breath lighting up the arena. Warriors in the stands pounded their fists against their chests, eager for battle. Tigvera stepped back. Good luck, my mate. Dorian sighed. Yeah, thanks. Really feeling the love here. The Guardian charged. Dorian ran. The fight for survival. The beast's massive claws slammed into the ground just inches from Dorian's back. The impact sent a shockwave through the arena, making the ground crack beneath him. Dorian barely managed to dodge to the side. Okay, no problem. Just a giant lava monster trying to kill me. I've totally dealt with worse. The Guardian swung its tail. Dorian ducked just in time as it smashed a stone pillar into rubble. He needed a plan. Fast. He scanned the arena. There, the molten veins in the walls. They were feeding energy to the beast. Dorian smirked. All right, big guy. Let's see how you like a little sabotage. He ran toward the nearest molten vein, grabbing a loose piece of broken pillar. The Guardian charged again, but at the last second, Dorian leaped to the side and smashed the stone into the molten vein. The lava burst out, sending a shockwave through the beast's body. The Guardian howled, its flames flickering. Dorian grinned. Oh, not feeling so tough now. The warriors in the stands murmured. Some looked impressed, others concerned. The Guardian staggered. Dorian saw his chance. He grabbed another piece of stone, this time aiming for the largest vein. With a final shout, he hurled the rock with all his strength. The arena still crackled with heat from the molten explosion. Smoke curled from the cracks in the stone floor, and embers drifted lazily in the air. Dorian stood at the center of it all, his hands on his knees, breathing hard. He had just defeated a flaming death monster using nothing but his wits and sheer dumb luck. The crowd of warriors stared. For a long, tense moment, nobody spoke. Then, the Grand Chancellor rose from his seat. His violet robes shimmered under the glowing embers as he looked down at Dorian with an unreadable expression. The silence was suffocating. Dorian swallowed. Sue, did I pass? The Grand Chancellor's lips curled into a slow, approving smile. You survived. The warriors in the stand suddenly pounded their fists against their chests in a rhythmic show of respect. The sound echoed through the arena, filling the space like a thunderous drumbeat. Dorian blinked. Wait, that's a good thing, right? Tigvera stepped beside him, her golden eyes gleaming. They honor you. You fought well. Dorian let out a relieved laugh. Ha, see, I told you I'm full of surprises. Tigvera raised a sharp brow. You were nearly full of fire. He sighed. Yeah, let me have my victory. A warrior in gleaming obsidian armor stepped forward. He was massive, easily a foot taller than Dorian, with deep blue skin and a face full of scars. His eyes burned with intensity. This guy screamed danger. Tigvera stiffened beside Dorian. The warrior crossed his arms. I am General Kaler, Tigvera's uncle. Dorian's stomach dropped. Oh, great. Always nice to meet the family. Kaler's sharp gaze raked over him. You are weaker than I expected. Dorian smiled nervously. I get that a lot. Kaler stepped closer, towering over him. Tivera is the pride of our people, a warrior unmatched, and now she is bound to this. Dorian frowned. This just beat your giant lava lizard, didn't he? Kaler's expression didn't change. A lucky strike. Dorian groaned. Seriously, does no one here believe in skill? Tivera placed a hand on Kaler's arm. He is my chosen. That is all that matters. For a brief moment, Kaler and Tivera locked eyes. A silent conversation passed between them. Then, with a slow exhale, Kaler stepped back. Very well, but know this, human, should you ever bring dishonor to my niece, I will personally remove your heart. Dorian gave a tight smile. Fantastic. Can't wait for family dinners. A royal summons. After the trial, Dorian was led through the grand halls of the citadel. Unlike the arena, this place was filled with elegance, glowing crystal pillars, golden tapestries, and intricate carvings that told stories of ancient battles. Dorian had zero time to appreciate any of it. He was too busy trying to keep up with Tivera. Can we slow down? He huffed. Some of us aren't trained warriors with infinite stamina. Tivera didn't even glance at him. You survived the trial. You can survive walking. Dorian muttered under his breath, jogging to keep pace. Finally, they reached a massive set of double doors. Two guards in ornate silver armor stepped aside, pushing them open. Inside, a towering figure sat upon a throne of carved obsidian. His armor gleamed like polished onyx, and his crown burned with violet energy. His presence alone commanded absolute authority. The Salvanan Emperor. Dorian gulped. This was it. The Emperor's voice was deep, resonating through the chamber. So, the human who broke my daughter's curse stands before me. Dorian froze. Wait, daughter. Slowly, he turned to Tivera. She met his gaze with calm certainty. You're a princess. Tivera blinked. Did you not know? Dorian ran a hand through his hair. No, I did not know. That feels like a really important detail to mention. The Emperor let out a booming laugh. Perhaps you should have asked, human. Dorian sighed. Oh yeah, because that's totally a normal question. Hey, are you secretly royalty? Tivera tilted her head. You never asked. Dorian groaned. Unbelievable. The Emperor's amusement faded. Your actions today have earned you the right to stand before me, but a single victory does not make you worthy of my daughter. Dorian crossed his arms. Wow, tough crowd. The Emperor leaned forward. Power radiated from him. You have proven your cleverness. Now you must prove your loyalty. Dorian hesitated. Loyalty? The Emperor's eyes narrowed. You must swear to stand by Tivera's side, to uphold our ways, our honor, and our people. If you cannot, then leave now. Dorian's mouth went dry. This was it, the moment he had to decide. He looked at Tivera, strong, fierce, stunning. She had challenged him, fought beside him, and even in her own way, protected him. And somewhere along the way, he had stopped wanting to run. Dorian took a deep breath. Then he met the Emperor's gaze. I swear. Kai barely had time to react before the duel began. One moment, he was standing in the grand chamber of the Zarvian High Council, surrounded by warriors in gleaming armor, and the next, his opponent lunged at him with a blinding speed. Ziara watched from the side, her arms crossed, her expression unreadable. The other Zarvian nobles sat in a semicircle around the arena, eager to see how the soft-spoken human would handle a traditional combat challenge. Kai ducked just in time, the enemy's blade slicing the air above his head. Whoa, can we talk about this first? He called out, jumping back. His opponent, a towering Zarvian warrior named Varkos, sneered. Talking is for those who have already lost. Kai had no sword, no armor, just his wits, and the suit he had worn for what he thought would be a diplomatic meeting. All right, think, Kai, how do you outsmart a guy who's built like a tank and probably trained since birth to fight? Varkos lunged again, his blade flashing under the golden lights of the chamber. Kai rolled to the side, barely avoiding a fatal strike. The crowd murmured in amusement. They expected him to fail. Ziara, however, knew better. She had seen Kai escape impossible situations before. Kai straightened, raising a finger. Time out. Varkos hesitated, confused. Time. What? Time out. It means pause. The warrior blinked, then glanced at the council members. Is this some human trick? Ziara sighed. Just fight, Varkos. Varkos charged again, this time. Kai didn't dodge. He stood his ground, watching, calculating. At the last second, he pivoted, stepping to the side. Varkos, unable to stop his momentum, crashed headfirst into a marble pillar. The chamber went silent. Kai grinned. See, who needs brute strength when you have gravity and bad depth perception? Ziara pressed her fingers to her temples. Kai. The High Chancellor, an elderly Zarvian with piercing golden eyes, leaned forward. Interesting. You refuse to fight, yet you still win. Tell me, human, what is your philosophy? Kai dusted off his sleeves. Simple. I don't start fights, but I end them, preferably without getting stabbed. The nobles exchanged glances. Some seemed impressed, others looked unimpressed, as if disappointed he hadn't fought traditionally. Ziara stepped forward. You challenged him. He outmaneuvered you. By our laws, he has proven himself. Varkos groaned, pulling himself up. His pride was wounded more than his body. This is not how Zarvians fight. No, the Chancellor agreed, but it is how humans win. He turned to Kai. Very well, you may continue your claim. Kai raised an eyebrow. Claim? Ziara exhaled. They mean the claim over me, Kai. You've proven yourself worthy of standing as my equal. Kai blinked. Wait, I thought I was just trying not to die. Laughter rippled through the chamber. The Chancellor nodded. The next test will not be one of combat, but of wisdom. You will meet with the elders at dawn. Kai groaned. Great. First, I almost get decapitated, and now I have to take a pop quiz from ancient aliens. Ziara smirked. Still think marrying into an alien warrior society was a good idea. Kai sighed. I regret nothing, except not bringing a helmet. She shook her head, but there was admiration in her eyes. Come on, husband, you have a long night ahead of you. As they left the chamber, Kai couldn't shake the feeling that the hardest challenge was yet to come. Kai sat cross-legged on a smooth stone floor, staring at the three elderly Zargian sages seated before him. Their golden eyes gleamed under the soft blue glow of the floating orbs that lit the ancient chamber. The silence stretched uncomfortably long, and Kai shifted. So, do I introduce myself, or do you already know I'm the strange human your council is talking about? He asked. The eldest sage, a woman named Velith, raised a single silver eyebrow. Silence is the path to wisdom, human. Perhaps you should listen before speaking. Kai cleared his throat and sat up straighter. Got it. Listening. Very wise. Proceed. Ziara stood behind him, arms crossed, her expression unreadable. Kai wasn't sure if she was amused or worried. The second sage, an older man with a long silver braid, finally spoke. You have proven yourself in combat, not with strength, but with cleverness. Now we test your mind. Kai exhaled. I was afraid of that. The third sage, a quiet, frail-looking man, waved a hand, and a holographic projection appeared in the air. It showed a planet, lush and green, with two suns glowing in the distance. Then, suddenly, ships appeared, huge, dark, and ominous. Fire rained from the sky. Explosions erupted across the land. This is a vision of war, Velith said, one that has yet to happen. A powerful enemy threatens our people. You, outsider, are given command of our fleet. What do you do? Kai stared at the image. Wait, hold on. You're putting me in charge of an alien war. I don't even have a driver's license for a spaceship. The braided sage remained serious. Answer, human. Kai ran a hand through his hair. Okay. I don't know much about your enemy, but if I had to guess, brute force won't be enough. We need to outthink them, hide strengths, bait them into weakness. Make them believe they've won before they realize they're trapped. The sages exchanged glances. Kai continued, pointing at the hologram. You said this is a possible future, right? Then you have time. You don't have to meet them head-on. Find out what they fear, find what they need, and then take it from them before they even arrive. Silence followed. Kai swallowed. Maybe that was the wrong answer. Then, Velith chuckled. Interesting. You think like a trickster, not a conqueror. Kai shrugged. I like to win without getting punched in the face. The frail sage finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. Perhaps there is wisdom in this human after all. Xiara allowed the smallest smirk to form on her lips. She had expected Kai to fumble through this test, but he had surprised her, again. Velith nodded. You have passed the trial of wisdom, but one final test remains. Kai groaned. Of course, there is. Why wouldn't there be? The braided sage's expression softened. This one is not for us to judge. It is for her. He turned his gaze to Xiara. Kai blinked. Wait, what? Xiara stepped forward, looking at Kai with an unreadable expression. This test is the most important of all. You have fought. You have spoken with wisdom. But do you truly understand me? Do you understand what it means to stand by my side, not as an outsider, not as an earthling, but as my equal? Kai met her gaze. His heart pounded. He had faced warriors, outwitted sages, and avoided getting stabbed. But this was the hardest challenge yet. Zara's voice was steady. Tell me, Kai, why did you speak my name? Why did you wake me? The chamber was silent. Even the floating lights seemed to dim. Kai took a deep breath. Because I saw you, not as a legend, not as a statue, not as some ancient mystery. I saw you, the real you, and I couldn't leave you alone in the dark. Xiara inhaled sharply. The sages watched, waiting. Then, slowly, she smiled. Then the final trial is complete. Kai exhaled. Oh, thank the stars. Do I finally get a nap? Laughter rippled through the chamber, but as they stepped out of the temple, Xiara's hand brushed against his. And for the first time, she held on. The twin moons of Zarv hovered above the grand city, their silver glow washing over the towering spires and curved bridges. The streets below were alive with celebration. Fires burned in massive golden braziers, warriors clashed in friendly duels, and music echoed through the air. At the center of it all, Kai stood on a high balcony, staring down at the madness. Let me get this straight, he said, turning to Xiara. This whole festival is for us. Xiara smirked. No, it's for me. You just happen to be part of it. Kai sighed. Of course, how could I forget? It had been mere hours since the final trial, since Xiara had accepted him, not just as a warrior or a strategist, but as someone worthy of standing beside her. The sages had declared their union, blessed by the ancestors, and now the Zargian people celebrated in the only way they knew how, through battle, feasting, and loud, chaotic revelry. A deep voice interrupted his thoughts. Kai of Earth. Kai turned to see Xiara's father, High Warlord Korthan, approaching. The man's massive frame was clad in ceremonial armor, his long crimson cape trailing behind him. His golden eyes studied Kai with an unreadable expression. Kai straightened. Warlord. Father-in-law. Korthan narrowed his eyes. Too soon. Yeah, probably too soon, Kai muttered. Xiara rolled her eyes. Father, what is it? Korthan crossed his arms. You have survived the trials, proven yourself in wisdom and combat, but you must understand, human, this is only the beginning. To stand with my daughter is to walk the path of war. There will be enemies, challenges. You may be tested again. Kai met the warlord's intense gaze. Yeah, I figured. Korthan leaned in slightly. Do you regret waking her? Kai hesitated, then shook his head. Not for a second. The warlord's face remained unreadable for a long moment. Then, to Kai's shock, he let out a deep, rumbling laugh. Good, Korthan said, clapping Kai on the shoulder so hard he nearly toppled over. Then drink, celebrate, and prepare. Your next battle will come sooner than you think. With that, the warlord strode away, disappearing into the crowds. Kai exhaled. Okay, I'll admit, I thought he was about to throw me off this balcony. Xiara chuckled. If he wanted to, he would have done it already. Kai shook his head, stepping to the edge of the balcony again. The festival was in full swing, warriors laughing, children racing through the streets, flames reflecting off polished armor, And in the middle of it all, he stood beside the woman who had once been nothing more than a legend. "Well," Kai said, offering Zara his hand, "shall we join them?" Zara raised an eyebrow. "You do realize that part of this celebration involves challenging others to combat." Kai grinned. "Oh, I know, but I've been practicing my dodging skills." Zara smirked, then took his hand. "Very well, Earthling. Let's see if you can survive the night." With that, they leaped from the balcony, landing gracefully on the festival grounds below. The celebration roared around them, but for Kai, the real adventure was just beginning.